Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my distinct honor to welcome this morning on our Sunday morning to KSWV Radio a wonderful friend of mine, Caitelen. Hello, Caitelen.
Hi, it's good to be here. Thanks for
Well,
having me.
thank you for being with our radio family today. And Caitelen, I'm so appreciative of the opportunity to be able to spend some time with you because you're someone that I've known for many years now. But your music and what you've done with your music has touched so many people's lives, and we're going to play some of that for our listening audience today. But you're a singer-songwriter, worship leader, multi-instrument musician, recording artist, producer. We can go on and on and on, and we will get into all of this in just a moment. But just wanted to say hello and welcome. So thank you.
Thank you.
So, Caitelen, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that our listening family, you're a fellow Santa Fecina, but tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into some of our, topics for today.
Yeah, well, we've been here in Santa Fe for about 5 years, a little bit over 5 years, and love it. Came from Phoenix before this, San Diego before that, and Albuquerque before that. Both my family and my husband's family are in Albuquerque, so it's getting to come closer to home has been a real blessing. And my husband Greg's a pastor at Christ Church Santa Fe here in town, and that's what brought us here. That's what brought us all over the place was ministry life. And so I'm a musician, but I'm also a mom. Got two beautiful girls who are 9 and 11, and my kind of full-time gig there is, obviously being a mom and homeschooling them. And I play music, write music, and produce it whenever I can. That's my other passion. But yeah, that's the short, the short version.
So, Caitelen, why don't we start with a song this morning so our listening audience can hear your voice. And when we return, we'll talk a little bit about what inspired you as a musical artist when you first started, going into the industry. And why don't we play a song here that I think I've listened to many, many, many times. It is finished. We'll be back with more with Caitelen in just a moment.
For as by one man's disobedience the many were made sinners, so also by one man's obedience the many will be made righteous.
See the God-man in the garden calling Abba. The cold set in as his weary friends could not keep watch. His hands, they were open So they took him and they struck him down. And they mocked him with a thorny crown. But his hands remained open, praying, Father, forgive them.
For as in Adam all die, so also in Christ shall all be made alive.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're visiting with Caitelen today. And Caitelen, what a beautiful song.
Thank
It is
you.
finished. Thank you so much for that song.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a heavy one, but a joy to write it. And yeah, I think it's blessed a lot of people, it blesses me every time I get to play it too. I feel like it's one of those things that the Lord just kind of gave me. It doesn't feel like it's entirely mine. And it's, I guess, no art truly is. But thank you for sharing it.
We're going to listen to a few more of your songs, and I'll ask you about, what inspired you with all your music. But I have to ask you, you come from a musical family. At what age did you begin your interest in music?
Oh, pretty early on. It was everywhere. It was in the car. It was in the house, all sides of all the family, everywhere. So it was just kind of part of the narrative growing up. But I really started showing interest in playing it and doing it myself as early as I think four or five. My parents go back and forth on that. So we moved a lot growing up. So it's always like we try to figure out what house did we live in when this happened. So the memory seems to stick with around 4 or maybe close to 5 was when I started kind of plunking out some stuff on the piano and playing a lot by ear, and picking up on harmonies and things. My parents were always harmonizing to things, so I just really got a good sense for music all around as a kid.
Now, I know I mentioned that you play many instruments. What instruments do you play?
Oh, I play anything I can get my hands on. And so if you come to my house, it's like a museum of instruments. My husband is very accommodating and kind. We just hang them up on any wall space and in every corner, and they don't just sit there. They're not decorations. We get them out and play them. Me and the girls do, and Greg does too. He plays guitar. But yeah, so my main instrument is piano. I'd say that's my heart instrument, and that's the one I feel most confident and comfortable on, and have been at the longest. I play guitar, a few different kinds, mostly acoustic. I play mandolin and violin. I picked up the Irish drum a few years ago just because it looked so much fun to play, and it really is. I'm not great at it. I play, mandolin and penny whistle and the auto harp and hammer dulcimer, and I'm not fantastic at any of those. They're more auxiliary, but they're super fun. And a lot of times I'm drawn to an instrument because it's, there's a particular sound I'm looking for in whatever music I'm working on. And like, for example, the cello, the first record I put out, I didn't at the time know any cellists to play for me, and I really wanted just kind of some simple cello parts. So I was like, does anybody have a cello I can borrow? So I taught myself enough to like put something really far under the mix, but it's there. And so sometimes necessity just brings it out of me, but I find it's such a joy to do that. And yeah, I will continue to collect and learn instruments my whole life. I hope it's fun.
I thought Sting played a lot of instruments. Now I know that he doesn't play as
He
many as
does,
you
though.
do.
I don't know. I don't know if we can put
Comparable.
me and Sting in the same sentence.
We're visiting with Caitelen. We're talking about her beautiful music. Caitelen's a singer-songwriter, worship leader, multi-instrument musician, recording artist, and producer. I see here that you began songwriting and self-producing at the age of 12.
Yeah, it was around that time that my dad, my parents have invested and encouraged my whole life with music. He bought me a little tape, like a 4-track tape deck recorder and a little microphone. And I went up in the attic in this house that we lived in Maine, and I just played around with layering my voice. I could put one track down, and then I could put a harmony, and I could put another harmony, and maybe I could put piano. And it was just a whole new world that opened up. And I had, started really listening to, picking my own music to listen to at that point. I'd grown up with so much good music, all the classic rock, good classical, good jazz, everything. But, there were a lot of female piano-based singer-songwriters in the late 90s that really resonated with me. And so I started experimenting with making my own songs along those lines. And probably for those first couple of years, it was copy and paste almost. You emulate the people that you admire, and until you start to find your own voice. And so a lot of those little tapes that I probably have somewhere around here are, probably just total ripoffs of Jewel and Joni Mitchell and, all the people I was listening to. But I really cut my teeth in the early days doing that. And it was a lot of fun.
Well, it's a blessing to be able to visit with you this morning. And I'd like to play another couple of songs this morning. I Lift My Eyes is a beautiful song, Psalm 121.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, we're going to play Undone by Grace. And when we come back, we're going to ask you a little bit about that. And then we're going to talk about some of your new stuff here. But 2 beautiful songs for your musical entertainment right here on KSWV Radio with Caitelen. Back with more in a moment.
Spirit, help my unbelief. How great my debt! Behold the saving sacrifice of Jesus Christ is greater yet. I lift my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from but you will not let my feet be moved, for the Lord sustains and slumbers not. I lift my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from but you? You will not let my feet be moved, for the Lord sustains and slumbers not. For the Lord sustains and slumbers I come to the end, face down in my fear. You have led me here. My heart is a stone, compelled by my own cause. Beneath the law I'm crushed, disarmed and bleeding out, consumed, consuming doubt. Come not to treat the well, but sick and dying here. The victor stands between eternal death and me. I know the one whose love brought low this burdened soul, to show me once for all that I may see and taste and fall into his hold, a child undone by grace. Why do what I do, what I believed in light, dark threatens to unwind. My bones waste away, the searing light unveils the tempter's disarray. Though flailing, fighting hard and failing every
That was two beautiful songs, Caitelen, and tell us a little bit about the songs that we just heard.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so Psalm 121, I lift my eyes. I write a lot for the church, a lot of music that I hope will be played in church and that is played in church, at least the ones that I have attended and lead worship at every once in a while. And so that psalm just really struck me, and I wanted to write a song that was close to it, that wasn't necessarily straight from the text, but really drew heavily from that text. And it's such a hope-filled psalm. And so I wrote from that. And Undone by Grace was my second EP that I put out in 2014. I have to think back. And it's the title song from that album. And that song, I drew heavily from, I mean, as I do with all of my songs, just from what I was going through in my own personal life, as a young mom and a pastor's wife, and kind of finding our feet in ministry and life. And we were living in California at the time, and my husband was working on his ordination. Our kids were tiny, newborn up to 2 and, 1 and 3 at one point. And so I really found that season to be very refining, very challenging, and very refining for me. And I wrote that song just out of I'll share a little bit about the writing process of it, which was, I went to the beach one day because we lived in San Diego. I know it was really rough. We were really suffering there at the beach. So, but it actually proves a good point. We lived in the most beautiful place in the United States, or one of them. And actually, I think Santa Fe is pretty beautiful, but we lived in a very beautiful place. We, had many reasons to be thankful and joyful, but, you can have, quote unquote, have everything you want or need and still really struggle in your soul and feel restless and feel discontent and have doubt and have, spiritual depression. Those things are very real. And, I was in a moment of that, and I sat on the beach in this beautiful place and felt so empty and lonely and just tired, as a young mom, and spiritually weary and spiritually empty in a lot of ways. And I cried out to the Lord, and I had my journal. I was just journaling, and I was just writing, just everything that I felt. And there were pages and pages of it. And when I went back to it a couple weeks later, I pulled just sections out, and it became this song. And, the first pass of it was pretty, it was one of the more honest, maybe slightly angry conversations with God. And I'm so thankful that we have examples in the Psalms of honest and sometimes angry conversations with God, where the psalmist cried out and said, "Where are you? What's going on? I don't see you. I don't feel you. I don't understand my enemies, all these things." And so I just felt very emboldened to write from that place and to write in that way, with some of those lines. But then, as the process typically goes for me, as I wrote these things out, as I prayed these prayers, really, I feel like my songs are prayers a lot, just talking to the Lord. He really answered. He answered a lot of those cries and prayers as I wrote, and the thread of hopefulness that we have in the gospel just came out in the chorus. And that's where, that's why there's both in that song. That's why there's both in life. There's both. We're allowed to have doubt, fear, crying out, being honest. And we also have that hope, and we also have the answers to those questions. And the Lord wants us to ask those questions, and he wants us to seek after him and to seek his word for those things. So that was the process of writing that song. That's what it's about. And And again, I feel like every time I sing that one, every time I sing a lot of these songs, I need to sing them again to myself, to my own soul. And so they continue to minister to me. And that's why they feel so often like truly like gifts of from the Lord, these songs. Yes, I wrote them. Yes, he inspired me to write them. But it really is kind of a beautiful thing where I feel like it's a prayer, it's a conversation, and it's something that he gave me that I need to continue to dig in and wrestle with those things.
Well, it's something that we all need. And I really appreciate the fact that on your website, people go to Caitelen.com. You shared your life story, part of your journey. And being able to share that, yes, indeed, it is very much, there are times where we do cry out to God and we're saying sometimes, and if we're being honest with ourselves, there are pain points in life where we're just maybe screaming and wondering where God is. And I got to say that, I've listened to your music and I very much appreciate your music and continue to listen to your music because the message resonates with me as well. And we want to let people know if they go to Caitelen.com, they're able to find links to Instagram, to Spotify, to YouTube, to Facebook. And I know that here on YouTube, here are all your videos that you have on your channel. And there's quite a bit here that people can look at. And then also on Spotify, they can listen to your music here as well. And so thank you so much for sharing that with us, Caitelen. We're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we're going to continue on with Caitelen this morning right here on KSWV Radio. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're visiting with Caitelen, a good friend of mine, singer-songwriter, worship leader, multi-instrument musician, recording artist, producer. I was looking at your website at Caitelen.com. I saw a quote from Will Hensley, who's a Grammy-winning producer. He said that your voice floats like an angel with a flamethrower. That's certainly a unique characterization. What does he mean by that?
I don't entirely know. He's Will was just such a joy to work with. He did all the mixing of the new record. I had 3 wonderful producers on this, and well, actually 4 if I include myself, which I do, because I ended up doing a lot more producing during quarantine times than I knew I would. But Will is one of the producers, and this was in reference to, I think, the song you're going to play next, and it's the title song of my new record that's coming out on October 1st, and it was the first song that I sent him to mix, and so it was the first thing he had ears on the record, and I just laughed out loud when he wrote that. He would make a point after every mix of every different song. He would have some funny, just little gem to add to it of his perspective on it. And I think I've never met him in person, but I can tell he's just funny and warm and hilarious guy. So I think it's just it was his way of kind of describing, his experience of my voice. But I have been told that, and I am really embarrassed even saying it, but people have said oh, your voice is like an angel, which is just so humbling and sweet that people would say that. But I love that he said the flamethrower bit, because sometimes I can get after it and belt out some notes. So I guess there's a little bit of both in there. But I love that visual. I love the visual that comes along with that. It's just hilarious.
Well, definitely, I can agree with the angelic part, and I tell you, the flamethrower does add that visual there, so kind of powerful, lighting the spirit on fire, which is very gripping. Let me ask you, so here on Spotify, there's great your singles, your EPs, of course, it's an album on there. But we just want to remind our listening audience that they're able to go there to listen to your music. And I know that Heart in Remission, let's talk a little bit about that, because that's a project you've been working on. Tell us a little bit about that project, because your voice is a bit more, how shall we say, more pop. You incorporate more pop into your music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is, if you listen to everything released up before this year, it will have a certain feel and sound to it, and this new record really does have a different feel to it. Even my vocals, I really experimented with a softer tone on some things, and just a different feel. Overall, the record is more poppy, I would say. And part of that has to do, I think, with just the folks I got to work with. I was connected initially with a producer based in Brooklyn, New York. And this was the summer before, everything's marked by the pandemic now. So it's the summer before the pandemic, where I got connected with him and made plans to go out to Brooklyn and met his co-producer. And so I went out in February 2020, did all the music with them and some session players. And during that time, I had never met any of the players. And one of the things that I like to do as a musician and collaborator is, I come in with my ideas, I come in with my arrangements, but for the most part, the songs are done. They're my songs, they're finished. But I really love to have an open hand on the instrumentation and just really allow the other musicians to bring in a bit of themselves, to bring their sound, to bring their flavor to it. Because I really want them to have ownership in it and feel like it's theirs as well. And I'm always so pleasantly surprised at what they bring to the table that I would have never come up with on my own. And I just think that's the beauty of collaborating. So, the record took a unique shape because of the people in the room and in the studio. And I went with it and I loved it. And it's different and it's fresh. And I think we should always be growing as artists and musicians and taking risks and trying new things. And so I'm excited for how it sounds. And my hope is that it will reach more folks, a different kind of audience that maybe is a little more drawn to this album than previous stuff. And for my already present listeners, that it'll be something exciting and new for them. And so that's that.
Well, why don't we listen to Heart in Remission and the song by Caitelen right here on KSWV Radio. Back in a moment.
I'm a kingdom refugee.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. That was a beautiful song, Caitelen. Thank you so much for that, Heart in Remission. And I was just wanting to ask you if you could just give us more of a deeper sense understanding of what it was like for you making this album.
Sure. Yeah, as I mentioned, it was sort of at the tip of the iceberg when I started the project right before COVID. It was February. Went out to New York, and there were kind of whispers of a pandemic overseas, but it wasn't here yet. So I recorded all of the music with the session players there, and then came home and had the intention of coming out again in April to do all of my vocals. So it's supposed to be 2 trips. Everything shut down, and I really had to rally to figure out what to do. Nobody was doing studio stuff for quite a while, and so we ended up borrowing a really lovely mic from a friend of mine, and we have a little 19-foot Airstream RV, and I ended up setting up a little studio inside of it, and it was the perfect place. And so my initial reservation was just like, can I do this? Like, can I do this myself? I have invested all this time and energy into, collaborating with these folks, which thanks to technology, I still could do. But I was initially disappointed to not have them in that part of the process. But as I got to do my own vocals, and really have the time and the space to do it on my own, I grew as a engineer and producer. That part of me really was stretched, and I had to learn a lot on the fly. And I just gained so much confidence in that, by doing it myself. And also I feel like I was able to do so much more, having the time and space to do it on my own. Whereas if I had flown out and had, 3 days in the studio to do all 8 songs, it's pretty tight and stressful, and that's how you do it. But it was really beautiful to be able to take my time with it. And I think there are moments that came through that never would have happened if I had been in a time crunch or been out in New York. For example, one of the songs, which is currently released as a single, is called Comfortable Quiet. And it's really just a very simple love song. But, a love song, yes, about, your significant other, my significant other, but really my family, the love for just being with family came through as a thread in there. And my kids were running around outside as I was testing my mic, and I, kept capturing little sounds of them running past the door of the Airstream. And so I just let it roll. I let the tape roll, so to speak, and ended up putting a little piece of their little voices just playing and screaming and having fun as a little undercurrent. And so I'll let you go and find that little nugget. It's in there, but that never would have happened if I didn't have the time to be creative and take some risks. And then there's another part at the very end of that song, that was my husband called when I was in the middle of tracking. And so I just let it go and keep recording. And I answered the phone. I said, "Hey, I'm singing a song about how much I love you." And he said, "Oh," and I had it on speaker. And he said, "Oh, I love you too." And he, said a couple of sweet things. And so I just kept that and I stuck it in there, and I love how it came together. And so there are a few moments like that on the record that happened because I had the time and space to be creative like that, which I'm really grateful for. So it was a joy to make it, and I'm so grateful for the 3 guys that were on this project with me that worked from afar and were patient. We were all had to be very patient with each other. We were in 3 different time zones, and it was a little bit challenging for a while there, but we did it, and I'm so excited to get it fully out there for everyone to hear.
Well, if folks go to your YouTube channel, they'll be able to see Heart in Remission live from Bam Burrito Studios. I like the name,
Yeah.
Bam Burrito Studios.
Yeah, we called it, it's a Bambi. It's an Airstream Bambi, but it looks like a little burrito. So that's her nickname, and that's what I'm calling it. So.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for that, Caitelen. And I know that you have some upcoming events that we would like to share with our listening audience. it looks like there in Las Cruces and here in a couple here in Santa Fe. So tell us what's coming up.
Sure. Yeah. I'll be at a church down in Las Cruces, University Pres, on the 16th. There's a big fall festival that day, and we're the featured musicians, me and a band. So it'll be a full band experience for that, playing all the new song or most of the new songs and some of the older songs, and then I'll be staying on to lead worship the next morning at church on their Sunday service. So there's that on the 16th and 17th, and then at the end of October, the CareNet is putting on an event, and I'll be a part of that, just a little part of that. Going to share a few songs that are one in particular that I wrote that was in the credits for a movie that just came out this last year, Roe v. Wade, which is about that trial and that whole thing. So I was really honored to be a part of that project and to have that song featured there, and I'll get to share that live. And that is on the 22nd.
Thursday, October 21st.
21st. Thursday, October 21st.
Yes.
And then, and then November 12th at Christ Church Santa Fe, I will be putting on a concert of original music, and everyone is welcome to come to that as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Caitelen, I got to say, your musical journey is something that touches many people. Your story, the lyrics that you've written, the music you've composed, and I just, wish continued blessings for all your future projects. I know that you've had many projects that you've worked on, and you keep yourself incredibly busy. And I think that we're just so fortunate that, you call Santa Fe your home, and that we have your music to lift us up when we're feeling down, that we have your music to keep us riding high when we're feeling good, and to ultimately bring us closer to in our relationship with God, and which I think is something that I find just incredibly uplifting. So, Caitelen, before we conclude today, any final thoughts for our listening family?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to share just a quick word of encouragement, something I need for myself just as much. And maybe I'll start with just a quote that I really resonate with, that I love to share with people whenever I get the chance. It's from an artist named Lilias Trotter, and I'd love for you to go check her out and look up her story. She lived a life as an artist, but also as a person who struggled deeply with a lot of chronic pain and trials in her life. And at one point, in one of her lowest moments, she wrote, "I am beginning to see that it is in the low place that one can best believe." And I just really resonate with that idea. And I think it's so true. I think the Lord allows low places. And certainly there have been plenty of low places this last year where we have had a lot of time to be introspective and to think and to be confronted with ourselves and with the hard things of the world. And it's in those places where we see our need most profoundly, and that we also have the opportunity to see God's goodness and his provision and the way that he has been sovereign and will continue to be, and that he will continue to be our hope in and out of season. And so I'll leave you with that and just say thank you so much for having me on the show, for listening, for encouraging my music and ministry, and God bless you all.
Well, thank you so much, Caitelen, for sharing with us today. Thank you for your ongoing ministry. We appreciate it. Caitelen, singer-songwriter, worship leader, multi-instrument musician, recording artist, and producer. We appreciate it. God bless you. Have a great day.
Thank you.